now I have my capo right here. So I prefer, there's many capos to use. There's tons of styles, but I typically prefer my my Elliott capo. I think that's just the absolute best one out there on the market you can get. But it ranges in all various kinds, and I'm not here to tell you, I'm not sponsored by anybody to tell you what capo is the best. I just simply prefer Elliott capo. You can get others among some Kysers, which are great. And I'll leave description and links all below the video that you can look and kind of find out what capo is in your price range and what capo is better for you. And any of these capos, in my opinion, are great choices. None of them are bad and will serve you great. I would say the Kyser capo probably being among the cheapest capo out there on the market. I would go with a low action Kyser capo. It just better keeps the tone better on your guitar. And I would do the is it called the shub? The shub capo? Is that the way you pronounce that? Anybody out there? Is that the way to pronounce that word? Like some of these names, y'all, are really weird, and you're like, I didn't even know what you're talking about. I can't even say the word capo. Well, I grew up in a third world country and I was homeschooled, so English is not my first language. So yes, with the jokes out there, ha ha ha. Homeschooled and third world country, best of both worlds, right? Shub, yeah, it's a shub capo. Ha ha ha! I was right, thank you, sir. All right, and now as we kind of dive into this a little bit, shub would be right there in my opinion with the Kyser capo. I would even bet to say a shub is actually better than the Kyser capo in my opinion. Next up on the line, if you're getting into a lot of alternate tunings, and if you do a lot with electric guitar, then the G7 capo is just absolutely a great tool. It's great with the action, working with this kind of situation. So if you're getting into a lot of the whole step and half step tunings like we're doing later on down the road, the G7 is absolutely great for that. The next kind of capo I'd recommend is a Thalia. I do think a Thalia capo just holds the tuning better on guitars. If you're playing with electric, I would stick with the G7 capo over the Thalia capo. That's just my personal opinion. But the Thalia capos are a bit more pricey than even the Kyser, the Shub, or the G7. But they're well worth their money, as you can kind of change the head, the little rubber stop on the front, and kind of adjust the sound, get the pressure just right, not to be, because you can be in and out of tuning without even trying to play. Like, that's possible. It can happen. So please keep that in mind. When you play a G chord, doesn't mean you're making a perfect G chord on the guitar. It does on piano if it's in tune, but the guitar is not that way. It's by pressure and making sure certain stuff is not too tight, like you're capoing on this kind of stuff. And the next I do recommend is actually like the G7, not G7, excuse me, Thalia capo. If I can speak English today, it wasn't just the Shub capo, guys. It's like my English is today. My English is messed up today. All right. And it's the Elliott capo. I'm not paid to tell you what brands are good. I'm not paid to tell you this is the best. I just personally enjoy and use what I love. If one of the companies is watching this, they'd like me to sponsor me with one of those, hey, do it, because I love every single one of these capos, and I use them all in different situations. Every single one. I have every single one in my bag. And I'll be honest, even the one I didn't even mention is the glider capo. That thing is so cool. Glider capo, in my opinion, on my guitar. And you got to realize, I've talked to guys that go like, I don't like the Thalia, I like the G7, right? I don't like the glider, doesn't fit my guitar very well. And it's completely true. I think the glider capo takes a little more finesse to play with. So if you want to learn a little more finesse, I think the glider capo is great. But you're trying to learn what best fits your guitar, because capos like Kyser, the Shub, if I'm pronouncing that right, and the glider, Shub, and Kyser, they're all made kind of like a one-size-fits-all. So, your guitar might be slightly off than what is best for it. The G7 really does well at that, because you can adjust how much pressure you want on there. And in my opinion, the Thalia does the best at that. If I'm playing electric, I want a G7 capo every time. I really do. And the Thalia capo can work on so many other instruments. I think they do like ukulele and tons of others. You can look it up on their site. They give like a little chart for what it's good for, and the elliottcapo can play on just about any instrument. So a little more expensive, but instead of having to buy like 3 or 4 capos, you just buy one. So pros and cons. But the Elliott, which is the most expensive, but I'll tell you why I like it, and that is absolutely because as the clock dings every time, you go all afternoon and the clock didn't ding. I'll wait for it to pass. It's like, what is that, a fifth? And the elliottcapo is by far the best in my opinion, but it is the most expensive, but it's well worth its money. So without any further ado, let's get started. Now we've kind of talked about capos, let's dive into how to best put the capo in to get the best sound out of it once you have it.